I'm about to walk you through the exact architecture that took one of my clients from averaging 50K a month to 250K a month in 18 months. And I'm going to break down exactly why this worked because honestly, it breaks almost every rule about scaling that you've ever been taught. Because he did all of this while working dramatically less than ever before, while traveling to dozens of countries, proposing to the love of his life, running masterminds dressed in an Austin Powers costume in spectacular places like a five-star ski resort in Japan and 3,000 meters high up in the Austrian Alps, which is actually where they filmed a James Bond movie. He spent summers in Europe working part-time while the business continued to grow, basically, in his words, having the most epic year of his life. And after helping hundreds of experts, coaches, consultants scale their businesses, I found that the entrepreneurs who scale the furthest and are able to sustain it over the long term, the ones who hit 100K months, 200K, 300K months consistently while actually enjoying the ride, they actually aren't the ones who work the hardest, who hire the most people, or who build the most complicated systems. They're actually the ones who build their business around maximizing turn on. Basically, as the kids would say, pleasure maxing. And I mean that literally. Turn on is the experience of being so lit up by what you're building that you have more energy at the end of the day than you did at the start. It's when you have a level of passion that most people cannot even imagine, and the audacity that allows you to bring your boldest vision to life. When your business stops being a thing that you manage, that drains you, and actually starts being the thing that fuels you. And when you feel so fucking on fire and unstoppable that it feels like anything is possible because you're basically operating on God mode. Turns out that feeling isn't just a nice to have, it's actually the highest leverage scaling advantage that nobody's talking about. And if you haven't made this the single organizing principle that your entire business and life revolves around, then it might sound a little bit like the last thing that would make you more money. You're probably on the lookout for the next funnel, strategy, or hire that'll take you to the next level. So I'm going to show you the numbers first, and then I'll demonstrate why this is actually the single most asymmetric, precise, and leveraged thing that you can do. I've built my own multi-million dollar business working 15 to 20 hours a week while having so much fun that it often feels illegal. I don't have a big team, it's a low stress operation, and I have insane margins. And over the last couple of years, many of my clients have hit their first 100K month, 500K month, and some their first $1 million month, all using the same architecture that I'm about to share with you. So today, I want to take you behind the scenes into one of their stories. And that's my client Eli, who's actually also become one of my closest friends. So I'll tell you his story and I'll break down the framework behind it so you can see exactly how to apply this to your business. So Eli just had a $285,000 month, followed by a $255,000 month, and then he collected $105,000 in cash just in the first week of the month after that. So he's gone from 50K a month on average to over 250K a month in the last 18 months that we've been working together. And he's 5x'd his business while significantly increasing his profit margins, also while having the best year and a half of his life. So the next goal we're actually working on is a $3 million a year business that he can run in 1 hour a day just from voice notes from his phone. Now, those numbers are fun, but what makes this interesting isn't the revenue. It's actually how he got here. Because the path that Eli took to 250K a month is not what you would expect. And I think if you're someone who's already making decent money, 30, 50, 100K or more a month, and you know that there's another level that's possible for you in business, what I'm about to show you is going to reveal exactly where your real unlock is. Before I show you the architecture, you need to understand exactly where Eli was when we started. Eli had a travel business helping entrepreneurs maximize credit card points for first-class travel. He built it from scratch, 14 months of grinding before he got his first $300 sale, and then he grew it to 50K a month. And the business worked. He had a growing brand, he was getting invited to speak on stages, he had ads running, high-profile clients, revenue that most people would kill for. But Eli had this feeling that there was just so much more that he and his business were capable of producing. this nagging sense that he was operating at maybe 30% of what was possible. And it's not because he thought the business was broken, the business was pretty good. But good and extraordinary are very different things, and he could feel the gaps. So, for one, the margins were not optimized. So, even at 50K a month in revenue, profit was getting squeezed because he was constantly reinvesting into the team, into ads, systems, all the stuff that you're supposed to invest in when you're scaling. Revenue looked impressive, but what he was actually keeping in terms of profit didn't actually match the effort that he was putting in. His brand was built around a mechanical outcome, points maximization. Technically useful, super valuable, but other people in the space could actually claim the same thing. And that made him somewhat interchangeable, even though he was clearly better than the competition. This capped his pricing, his close rates, and the economics. So he was excellent at what he did, but the brand didn't quite reflect how unique and different he actually was. Also, the way things were set up, growth required more of him. So he was always on, always involved. Every new client meant more of Eli's time. And he could see the math, right? More revenue would mean more of him consumed, not less. Now, Eli wasn't in crisis. He wasn't failing. He was doing really well by any normal standard. But he was clear on something that I think you might be clear on as well, that there was a better version of all of this possible. An extraordinary version, one that would allow him to live a truly extraordinary life. And he could feel it on the other side. He just couldn't see the path to it from inside his current setup. Like so many entrepreneurs that I've advised over the years, he didn't have a strategy gap. He actually had an architectural ceiling. So before I get into the specific moves, I want to show you the bigger framework because every change that I made with Eli was actually part of an integrated system. And once you see the system, you'll understand exactly why individual tactics alone won't get you to the ultimate version of your business. So most entrepreneurs try to scale by adding more. More content, more offers, more team, more funnels, more ads, more complexity. And when it all gets too complicated to manage, they buy systems to manage and hold this complexity that was almost always never needed in the first place. That game has a ceiling. And it's also a great recipe if you want to end up with lower margins, lower energy, and honestly, a sad excuse for a life because you're so goddamn stressed all the time. The reason why you're being told by all the people on the internet to build a bigger machine and then become a better operator of it is because the people selling you this idea are the ones who are actually profiting from you. The premise that I work from is fundamentally different. Instead of scaling the machine, we scale the thing that actually creates disproportionate value in your business, which is you. Your thinking, your point of view, your decision making, your way of seeing what other people miss. The kind of thinking, seeing, and deciding that nobody else in your business or your market can replicate. Your time, energy, and attention are finite, but your creative capacity is infinite. So I believe that your goal should always be to build the smallest sized business that produces the largest amount of profit while working the fewest number of hours, while designing the whole thing to feel as effortless and fun as possible in a way that keeps you in a perpetual state of flow. I call this building an economic engine around your energy. This is where growth comes from alignment, not force. And the bigger the business becomes, the better your life gets, because the business scales as a function of who you are, not how many hours you put in. So the architecture that makes you the most money is also the one that gives you the most amount of freedom. I call this getting paid to exist. And the question at the center of all this is almost stupidly simple. How do you get paid more and more to be more and more yourself? And when that architecture clicks, when you're actually getting paid more to be more yourself, it feels like the ultimate glitch in the matrix. Like a cheat code that shouldn't exist, but it actually does. Now, let me tell you exactly what this architecture looks like, because it has 3 pillars and each one operates in a completely different domain. Think of them as 3 energy centers that all have to be turned on for the whole system to work. Before I break down the 3 pillars, I need to tell you something that might sound a little weird for a business video, but it's the piece that makes all of this actually work. That took me almost 20 years of working with the world's fastest growing businesses to figure out, from advising dozens of CEOs to 7, 8, and 9-figure exits to helping billionaires unfuck their mind. And I found that there's actually 2 kinds of money that you can make in your business. There's turned off money, and then there's turned on money. Turned off money is when the revenue is coming in, but the way that you're making it isn't lighting you up, or you downright hate it. And this is what most entrepreneurs on the planet settle for because they believe that that's the price of success. The business works, the numbers are decent, but the daily reality of running it, the clients, the model, the pace of it's actually what's keeping you from your highest level of aliveness rather than amplifying it. You do it because you can do it, because people pay for it, because you really built something, and walking away would be borderline insane. But somewhere in the background, there is this feeling like you're wearing a suit that doesn't quite fit. It's technically fine, it looks good from the outside, but you can feel it pulling in all the wrong places. And here's why turned off money is a scaling problem, not just a feelings problem. When you're not fully turned on by what you're building, there's a part of you that actually doesn't want it to get bigger, because more growth means more of the thing that's draining you. Doubling or tripling the business might come at the cost of your health, your relationships, or your sanity. And you're constantly trading one thing that you value for another. So you self-sabotage, you hold back, you procrastinate, you start new projects that are really just escape hatches. You try new strategies and nothing quite breaks through. It's because the deeper issue is that you're trying to scale something that wasn't designed around your ideal life or the version of you that's actually ready to play at a much higher level. So turned off money has a ceiling built into it. And no amount of strategy or effort can break a ceiling that's actually structural. Turned on money, in contrast, is completely different. Turned on money is when you make money in a way that generates more of you, more energy, more excitement, that feeling of fuck yes, not because the Stripe notification hit, but because the way you earned it sets your soul on fire. The reason why this matters for scaling is that turned on money is actually easier to make. Not just a little bit easier, but actually disproportionately easier. It's asymmetric in every way because when you're genuinely lit up by what you're building, every metric improves across the board. Your content lands differently. People can feel the difference between someone who's performing and someone who's actually on fire, and they move towards that fire. Your clients get better results because you're bringing the best that you've got. Your energy is higher. It's actually through the roof. And that makes your thinking clearer. It makes your vision more exciting, and your decision making is so much superior. You don't burn out because the business is giving you so much more energy instead of draining it. And all of that compounds. The returns on turn on aren't linear, they're exponential. Turned on money creates a flywheel. Turned off money creates a ceiling. But, and this is the part that most people miss, turn on by itself isn't enough. Passion without architecture burns out pretty quick. You've probably seen this. The entrepreneur who's on fire about what they do, but they can't nail the business model. Or the one who has an incredible month or quarter and then crashes because nothing underneath is built to sustain it. Raw energy without the right foundation just dissipates. So the real unlock isn't just getting turned on, it's architecting the business around that turn on to make it sustainable. So it actually compounds. So the energy actually has somewhere to go and something to build on. And that's what the 3 pillars do. Each one takes a different dimension of what's required and actually makes it scalable. So let me show you how each one worked with Eli. So pillar 1 is the singularity brand. And the biggest reason that most expert businesses hit a ceiling is that they're actually selling a commodity. They're making a promise that other people in their space can also make. And when that's true, you're actually just competing on price, on features, and on who can yell the loudest. It's exhausting and it has a hard cap. So Eli's business was doing 50K a month on average. That's not nothing, but his brand was built around points maximization, which is a mechanical outcome that other people could claim. And that was actually capping everything: close rates, pricing, retention, his ability to stand out in a sea of other people making the exact same claims. Not because the service wasn't excellent, his clients actually got amazing results, but because the brand didn't reflect how different he actually was. So what we did was turn his brand into what I call a singularity. A singularity brand makes you a category of one and creates a ridiculous level of resonance with the highest tier of your avatar. You basically become the only solution for them, and they feel violently attracted to you. Your audience grows faster, your conversion rates increase across the board, your retention goes through the roof, and your clients become raving fans and referral machines. And in Eli's case, a big percentage of his clients started to refer a couple of more people. So a singularity brand isn't just built on features and outcomes. It's actually built on a clear thesis, core values, a personal philosophy, and a deeply aspirational identity that's all derived from you. So we weave who you actually are into every single touch point so deeply that the brand becomes uncopyable. Not because of what you do, but because who you are while you do it. So think about it this way. You're an instrument and your business is the music. If the instrument is even slightly out of tune, so you're disconnected from yourself, you're running someone else's playbook, you're performing a version of yourself that you think that the market wants, the music comes out, but it's fine at best. Right? It makes money, it's technically sound, but it doesn't create a category of one. It doesn't compel your prospects to crave being in your world, and it takes a lot more energy to get someone to convert. It makes you interchangeable. It makes your client relationships transactional. But when the instrument is in tune, when you're deeply connected to what you actually believe, what actually excites you, what you would do even if no one was watching, and your business is designed to maximize your authenticity, then the music that comes through is harmonic. It's pleasing, it's ecstatic, and it's something that nobody else can make. That's your frequency. And frequency cannot be faked. People feel it before they understand it. They trust you before they know why. They buy from that feeling way more than they buy from your pitch. I'm about to say something that may totally scramble your brain, because this is going to feel totally off the reservation if you've seen business from a purely mechanical lens of putting in hours and getting out cash. Business is a sexual act, one in which you're penetrating the universe with your vision and your energy. You're literally making a dent in reality. You're literally imposing your will on the world and bringing something into existence out of nothing. It's the fundamental act of creation. And that act of creation requires life force, turn on, aliveness. For Eli, we moved from points maximization to this idea of experiential wealth. So he wasn't just saving people money on flights anymore. He was helping entrepreneurs who already had financial wealth create a different kind of wealth. Extraordinary, meaningful experiences with the people that they love the most. So this wasn't just a transactional promise anymore. It made his business a mission-driven transformational movement. We built a whole philosophy around this, an identity, a value system, all pulled from who Eli actually is, not manufactured to elicit an outcome from the market. And then we organized everything around one clear avatar, one message, one promise, content, ads, offers, sales, delivery, all pointing in one direction. When someone buys into the philosophy of experiential wealth, they accept the identity of an experiential millionaire, then buying his products and services become the next logical and natural step. And in a world where AI is commoditizing information, tactics, and content in real time, your only defensible moat is your unique signal, your worldview, your taste, your embodiment. A singularity brand is the only thing that AI cannot replicate. It's the only thing that no one can take away from you. So before, we were helping entrepreneurs maximize credit card points for first-class travel, multiple avatars, feature-based, interchangeable. And now he's helping entrepreneurs become experiential millionaires so they can create memories that last a lifetime with the people that they love. One avatar, identity-based, category of one. The big benefit was that he stopped getting price objections. He stopped being a commodity. He didn't need to reinvent the brand and offers every 6 months. He became the category. He had pricing power. He had higher close rates. His clients stayed longer, and everything became radically simpler. So the second pillar is fractal architecture. The architecture of your business determines how efficiently and effectively you're able to distribute value in a market. Your architecture also determines the experience that you have running your business. Most people try to grow by adding more to the business. More team, more offers, more channels, more content. And in most cases, while they may increase revenue to a certain extent, it also creates a lot more overhead and a lot more complexity. The bigger the architecture, the more energy is required to run it, and the more you end up scaling your problems. This creates a natural ceiling in the business, right? Eli's business had grown, but the growth came with weight. Every new hire increased overhead, margins got thinner, even as revenue was going up. Acquisition was inconsistent, and he built something good, but the architecture wasn't designed for the levels to which he really wanted to take the business. Instead of trying to scale by adding more to the business, we actually took things away. We systematically subtracted all the complexity. We reorganized the architecture based on principles that I borrowed from a place where most business coaches would never look. Nature. The most efficient growth pattern in existence is not a funnel. It's not even a flywheel. It's actually a fractal. A fractal is a simple structure that contains the whole, and it repeats at every scale. That's actually how seashells grow, how galaxies form, how sunflowers organize their seeds. It's the Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio. It's everywhere because nature doesn't scale by adding complexity. Nature finds the most elegant core structure and it actually lets it repeat. The Fibonacci sequence is the perfect blueprint for the most efficient way to scale a business. And I actually figured this out advising Silicon Valley startups with billion-dollar valuations. The ones that scale the fastest all seem to follow the exact same trajectory. They found what I started calling their core fractal, the minimum viable structure that produced the maximum return in terms of profit and client satisfaction with the highest level of efficiency. And then they ran that sequence the way that nature has already proved that it works. So this became the perfect scaling roadmap. Simplify, optimize, scale in that order. So step one is to simplify. So we strip it all down. We remove the complexity, fewer offers, minimum moving parts, smallest possible team. We eliminate as much of the drag as possible to make the machine as lean as possible. Step two is optimize. So once you've simplified things as much as possible, then and only then do you want to optimize what's left. This is when you plug the leaks. You create stability by architecting more recurring revenue. You focus on consistent cash flow. You raise your floor instead of raising the ceiling. You increase margins and you improve the economic. And then and only then do we get to step three, which is scale. So that's when we pour gasoline on that fire with more traffic. And scaling becomes almost effortless because you're scaling a highly simple, efficient, optimized system instead of complexity and bloat. So we built a low-ticket acquisition engine that generates leads and customers while Eli sleeps. And then we carefully designed the customer journey to indoctrinate the people who came in with his values, his philosophy, and also installed a vision for how easy, luxurious, and life-changing it could be to create extraordinary experiences with their families. Those customers got immediate value, they developed deep trust, and they very effortlessly ascended to his high-ticket offers, which we also adjusted to add a recurring revenue component. So this, of course, liquidated ad spend for the most part, so he was getting paid to scale. We then added an even higher ticket offer for $25,000, what I call a top shelf offer. So power laws tell us that about 10% of your audience will pay about 10 times more. So one $25,000 sales equals 10 $2,500 sales. Dramatically higher margins and cash flow. And top shelf clients are more decisive, easier to work with, they get better results, they make for better case studies, and that actually attracts more top shelf clients. This dramatically improved the economics of the business. So not only were we predictably acquiring customers on autopilot, but we were able to convert more of them while exponentially increasing average order value and client lifetime value. But you can't attract top shelf clients with a commodity brand. And that's why pillar one had to come first. So before, multiple offers, fragmented avatars, inconsistent revenue, profits eaten by headcount, low AOV and LTV. And after implementing this, we had one beautiful ecosystem. Low ticket acquisition running 24/7, leading to mid-ticket recurring, and a new $25K offer attracting top shelf clients. Stable, predictable, and compounding. So the benefit to this was that the business was able to run without Eli in it every day. Revenue stabilized, growth didn't require more hours, and this is actually what makes the 4 hours a day, 4 days a week schedule actually possible. The third pillar is called unreasonable turn on. This is the pillar that actually animates the whole thing. And nobody else is talking about this because honestly, most people are addicted to the wrong things. We made a decision that'll sound crazy if you're thinking like a normal business person. Every single thing in the business should give him an unreasonable amount of turn on. This actually became the top level core value and decision filter. Not what'll make the most amount of money, but what will make the most turned on money. And it's actually where we got the idea for the Mojo Mastermind, a high level mastermind that Eli now leads in a purple velour Austin Powers suit built around Mojo energy. He launched this while running a ski trip in Japan in full costume. This generates several six figures a year in profit. It takes a few hours a month to run. And Eli literally said to me, I want my business to give me mojo. I wanted to make my balls tingle. So we built the business that actually does that. Mojo works because it's so uniquely him. It's his frequency, it's his essence, it's his aliveness. It's what he wants to do. He hosts these epic events around the world at the most luxurious venues, bringing in world-class experts like Ben Greenfield, Cameron Herold, Dr. Robert Glover. He's basically going to the places that he wants to go anyway, creating the kind of community and experiences that he wants to have anyway, bringing in speakers that he wants to learn from anyway, and he's architecting the energy that he wants to be in, and he's just letting others be a part of it. And every single person inside absolutely loves it precisely because of that reason. It's why this offer for him is so easy to sell, it's so easy to deliver, and it's so fun to grow with something like 95% retention, because it's actually designed to allow him to get paid to exist. And this is the perfect example of what I call energetic leadership and frequency branding, where your energy becomes your brand and your brand becomes your competitive advantage. People don't buy the mastermind. They buy the energy in the mastermind. They want to be around someone who is that lit up. They can feel it, that felt trust, that energetic coherence between who he is and how he shows up in the world and what he offers through his business. That is actually why his close rates are so insane, why clients stay forever, and why he's in demand in every single way. That's what happens when you build your business as a fingerprint that is unique to you instead of one that's based on someone else's blueprint that anyone can replicate. It takes a deep level of self-awareness and commitment to building your dream business, to not copy what works for someone else, to build from the inside out based on your core values, your desires, your constraints, your unique genius, and a clear vision of your most extraordinary life. To have the audacity to fully be yourself and let that become your brand. This is the key to engineering the business to feel effortless, where the bigger the business gets, the lighter and freer you feel because you're just getting paid more and more and more and more to be more fully you. Eli refused to settle, and that's a huge part of why he's here. Now, he isn't just a business owner who sells a service. He has now become an example of what's possible. And that's the ultimate status symbol in any market, to be the actual embodiment of an aspirational identity that other people want to calibrate to. It's not the striped screenshots. It's not the Lamborghini. It's being someone who lives in full alignment with what they offer. And I want you to feel what this actually looked like when it kicked in. A huge sense of expansion, excitement. For the first time, growth didn't feel like he was adding weight and pressure. It felt like he was being propelled forward by a tailwind. 25K sales dropping in while he's adventuring through Europe, living his actual life, having the white space and energy to keep expanding his vision, his leadership, and his message. Money flowing in with total ease because he intentionally designed the system to feel that way. That's the flywheel. Better state, better signal, better results, more fun, and more money. That's what I call scaling resonance. Growth that comes from alignment, not force. The business expands because you're expanding, not because you're grinding harder. So before, growth meant more weight and pressure, more stress. More revenue meant that more of Eli was consumed. And after, the business was fully organized around what gave him mojo. He operated in a state of play. The Mojo Mastermind added several six figures in profit, which takes a few hours a month to run. He had 25K sales coming in while walking through the streets of Paris. The benefit of all this, more than the money, was the sustainable energy to play the long game. Not having the constant dips and peaks, not having the burnout, feeling creative, feeling juiced up, feeling excited. And that wasn't the side effect, that was the actual engine that made all of this possible. So here's what makes it all stick, right? There's a thread running through all the three pillars. You can get to a certain level following someone else's model and duct taping strategies. Step one, step two, step three. It works until it doesn't. And at some point, the blueprint stops fitting you. Not because the model is wrong, but because it's not yours. It's like wearing a suit that's tailored for someone else's body. You can wear it, you can even rationalize that it fits for a little while, but the more you grow, the more it chafes. And this matters more than most people realize because I've seen what happens when entrepreneurs get locked into prescriptive models, which happens because most coaches and consultants that you may have worked with are incentivized to retrofit you into their model. You start thinking, I'm not doing it right, when really it's the model that just doesn't match who you are, much less the version of you that you're stepping into. Whether you take sales calls or you don't, whether you have a team or you run solo, whether you launch or you don't, or what kind of funnel or ads you're running, those are all semantics. The architecture fundamentally must adapt to you and not the other way around. Paid to Exist is a fingerprint-based business. It's engineered around your psychology, your strengths, your values, your style. Because I believe that your business should fit you like a bespoke suit made out of sweatband material. When you do this right, it moves and grows with you while also looking incredible. And it feels like absolute freedom. There's another piece to this though that you must understand. At some point, the ceiling that you hit isn't strategic. It's not even architectural. It's certainly not your funnel or your offer anymore. It's actually you, your internal operating system, your identity, your nervous system capacity, your self-worth, how well you take care of yourself, how well you set boundaries, and how quickly you can bounce back after a setback. Because you can't build the next level of your business with your current internal operating system. That's why in my work, we upgrade the identity, the nervous system capacity, and the daily operating system in perfect sync with the growth of the business.
And then I started working with Ani, and all of a sudden things started to feel lighter. And I started to enjoy the business more. And I started to remove myself from certain parts of the business, re-architect some of the structural side, rewire some of the psychology.
Because the external architecture and the internal architecture have to evolve together. Otherwise, you'll build something that you can't hold. You'll increase spending when more money comes in than what you used to. You'll overhire, you'll get distracted by shiny objects, or you'll self-sabotage in a different way. Because you're trying to go somewhere you've never been before, and that requires holding a tremendous amount of uncertainty and discomfort. This is why Eli's growth, instead of breaking him, became his fuel. The business grew because Eli grew. And Eli grew because the business was intentionally designed to support his growth, not work against it. There's a compound effect to all of this. And this is why fixing one pillar improves the business, but fixing all of them changes your life. Because they don't just add, they multiply. So notice how all of this works in a regenerative way. A singularity brand makes selling easier. You stop competing and you start attracting with maximum asymmetry. Fractal architecture frees up your energy because the business runs without you pushing it forward. It's simple, it's efficient. That freed up energy deepens your turn on. More turn on amplifies your signal. Your amplified signal attracts better clients. Better clients increase profit and reduce friction. More profit buys you more time and space. More space deepens your turn on even further. And the whole cycle upgrades again. That's not just scaling a business, that's compounding an extraordinary life. It's an upward spiral that has no ceiling. And that's what happened with Eli. He didn't just make more money. He had the best year of his life while doing it. The business stopped consuming him and started funding his aliveness, generating $285K in a month and then $105K in a week, traveling the world, getting engaged, being more excited about what he's building than he's ever been. That's getting paid to exist. And it's available to the select few who refuse to settle for anything less. While scaling requires strategy and tactics, of course, truly getting paid to exist actually requires a deeper shift in your identity. Now, you may currently identify as an expert, a service provider, a consultant, a coach, creator, an online entrepreneur of some sort. And while those roles are useful, I want to give you a vision for something much more powerful. An identity that's actually taken me decades to construct. I call it the exponentialist. An exponentialist stops trading time or even skills for money and starts building a living ecosystem of assets that work all the time in the background. The assets do the heavy lifting. So think part creator with a unique and potent signal, message, and point of view. Part architect, building the right systems based on clear constraints designed to amplify everything else. And part investor, then taking that cash flow and turning it into compound wealth so that work becomes optional. They don't just build a business, they build an economic engine around their energy. They don't compete. They become the category itself. They don't measure success by how much the business needs them. They measure it by how much the business keeps working and producing value in the world while they're living their life. The exponentialist optimizes for things that most entrepreneurs don't even think to measure because they're actually playing an entirely different game. Living the most extraordinary life possible while having tons of fun impacting people. And if you want to take this on, here are your new operating principles. So as exponentialists, we build an energy positive business where the business gives us more energy than it takes from us. We value simplicity over bloat, so fewer parts with much higher leverage. We prioritize alignment, so our business is a pure expression of who we actually are and designed to fit us like a custom fit suit made out of sweatband material. We use play as fuel. Fun isn't the reward after success, it's actually what powers the engine. We seek freedom through sovereignty. The business serves our life, not the other way around. We value resonance over force. So we don't push, we don't chase, we don't convince. We attract effortlessly because we're transmitting our most powerful frequency. And we prefer compounding sustainably over random peaks. Momentum instead of constant resets. We raise the floor consistently rather than chasing higher ceilings because we recognize that our expansion is always rate limited by the safety and stability in the system. We generate wealth with meaning. So money that expands life, purpose, profit, and play working together. We have high standards and taste. We build something premium, something distinct, something unmistakably ours. So I want to tell you about your highest leverage move. By now, you probably already sense where your biggest opportunity is. If your revenue feels capped, if you want more pricing power, more demand for your stuff, and you sense that you're more interchangeable than you want to be, then your highest leverage move is building a singularity brand. Stop competing and create a category. If your revenue is growing, but your calendar is getting fuller, not freer, then your highest leverage move is building fractal architecture. You've got demand. Now build a machine underneath that allows you to distribute value in the market more efficiently. If you've got a good model and everything feels heavier than it should, and you feel a slowdown in momentum, in your passion, then your highest leverage move is optimizing for unreasonable turn on. More than a new strategy, the business needs you to feel fully alive and fully on fire. If all three resonate and you want maximum asymmetry, which is what Eli wanted, then you need a compound approach that incorporates all three pillars. So at this point, you may have some questions swirling around. Is this just branding and vibes? No, this is a combination of architecture, of systems, and psychology. We're talking about the full stack. Brand, offers, acquisition, delivery, internal operating system. You may be wondering, do I need to rebuild everything or burn things down? No, I never recommend that because expansion requires a nervous system that feels safe and at ease. This is way less about knee-jerk reactive overhauls and more like simplifying and sequencing the few things that'll make the maximum impact in your business. Figure out what's already working. There's probably more than you think, and eliminate what's not serving you and build in the right order. Is this a rigid formula? No, it's actually the exact opposite. Whether you take sales calls or not, whether you have a big team or not, whether you run ads, you rely on organic, those are all just mechanisms. This is a custom fit architecture that adapts to you. Remember, fingerprint, not blueprint. You may think, what about my niche? What if I'm a special snowflake? Well, this is actually currently working in hundreds of businesses across dozens of niches. Travel, coaching, consulting, health, finance, education. This is all built on first principles that are universal. And if you're wondering, like, hey, I'm already doing pretty well, does this work for people at my level? This is specifically for people at your level. If you've already built something that works and you want to make it extraordinary, this is exactly who this is for. What about AI making so many things obsolete? Tactics, frameworks, and content, yes, AI is eating all of that, and that's potentially a good thing because your frequency, your actual embodiment, your point of view, that's the stuff that can't be coded. That's actually the only moat that's left. The only version of your business that can survive, ideally thrive in the AI wave is the one that's built around you as the competitive advantage. So if something in this video landed and you're thinking, how do I do this for my business? Well, you're welcome to click on the link below to book a scaling architecture session. This is a paid working session with me personally, where we'll pull up the whiteboard and deep dive into your business. We'll look at what you've already built, what's working, what has the most potential, where the architecture needs to shift. And I'll show you what's in your blind spot. We'll map the highest leverage moves that would 2 to 3x your business in the next 12 to 18 months. And you'll get immediate clarity on something that most entrepreneurs are starving for, which is how to make this business feel the way you actually want it to feel while scaling faster than you thought possible. It's paid because we do real work and you walk away with an actual plan that you can implement, whether or not that we work together beyond that. I only open a few spots at a time. If not, you'll be prompted to get on the wait list for when a spot does open up. So to close, I made this video because I think there's a ton of talented entrepreneurs who are sitting on businesses that work on paper, who can feel that there's something much bigger on the other side.
And then I started working with Ani, and all of a sudden things started to feel lighter. And I started to enjoy the business more. And I started to remove myself from certain parts of the business, re-architect some of the structural side, rewire some of the psychology. And now we're in a spot where we're hitting between $225,000 to $280,000 a month consistently. But that's not the best part. The best part is I've been doing that while I've traveled to over 15 different countries in the last year. I've worked some of the least that I have in years. There's been periods where I was just in the Alps running a ski trip with a bunch of people. I probably worked like 30 minutes a day, and we had a massive month, both revenue and profit, but I got to enjoy myself. And that's been the biggest payoff, is the emotional side. I've been able to really enjoy my life, to love my life, to fall back in love with the business, the brand, what I'm building, which is amazing, because when I started the business, I really loved it. And then I got into this really difficult period where I started to resent it. And now I'm back in this place where it's just like, it's fun again. And that's not to say there aren't challenges, but that's part of the beauty that I've had with working with Ani. He's held me through every step of the way, through different re-architecting of the business, through technological changes. Obviously, there's a lot going on right now with AI, and having him in my corner it just gives me such certainty and such peace and such grounding. He really combines two things that I think are really rare to see together, which is deep understanding of business architecture and business structure and how to engineer a business that doesn't just drive revenue, but actually drives profit. Not only that, but also really deep understanding of founder psychology, the energetic side, the emotional side, the mental side, and all the patterns that oftentimes run us that end up creating a lot of the issues in the business. He's helped me through so many transitions and pivots in the business, helped me launch a second business that now does multiple 6 figures a year in profit on the side, which I hardly really put even that much time into. I really just get to enjoy it and pour into it from a heart-centered place. So it's been an amazing journey. I could not recommend working with Ani more, to checking out his content and really adopting his worldview and philosophy. And that's ultimately what this is. It's not just a shift in one strategic move or one tactical move, but it's an entire different outlook on what business looks like and feels like. It feels so much more alive. There's so much more turn on and passion. So if you're considering checking Ani out or working with him, 100% endorse it.
You're ready for growth that feels like freedom, that comes from pleasure instead of pressure. You're ready to stop settling for good and actually build something extraordinary. And honestly, that's the only conversation I want to have anymore, because when I'm in this conversation, I'm at my best. Anyone can push buttons now and do the mechanical stuff, especially with AI, but the energy, the architecture, the deep alignment of who you are with what you're building, that's the only way to access ridiculous levels of financial success and fulfillment. It's the only thing that moves the needle in the long term. You know, a business where purpose, profit, and play all scale together, where you actually get paid to exist. And if that's the game you want to play, then book a scaling architecture session. The link is below. I'll see you on the inside.